I want to call to order the council meeting of October 9th, 2017. Please call the roll.
Rich Berta. Peg Conway.
Here.
Ed Hattenbach.
Here.
Alita Kamine. Here. Tom Muthi.
Here.
Ray Warren.
Here.
Natalie Wolf.
Here.
Scott Larmer.
Here.
Kevin Frank. Here. Keith Wallace.
Here.
Rick Keck.
If everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting. There were some corrections that were circulated during the day. Do any of the council members have any further corrections, additions, or deletions? If not, we can consider the minutes approved. We'll now move on to the finance report for August 2017.
The UAN report has been included in your council packet. I also have a memo in there summarizing some of the items from the general fund. The earnings tax collections for the month of August totaled $101,000. This is down about 31% from August of 2016's collection of $146,000. So the total amount collected year to date is $1.7 million. That represents about 57% of our estimate for the year, which the estimate was $3 million. The local government fund netted $4,500 in the month of August. And the month of August, in terms of revenue overall, was $236,000. That brings our total revenue, all of our sources in the general fund to date, $3,300,000. Our estimate for the year was $4.8 million, so about 69% of our collections have been made so far this year. On the expense side, the expenses for the month of August totaled $262,000. Our budget for 2017 was $4.6 million. And we've spent $2.7 million. So that puts us about a 56% expenditure rate as of the end of August. And that leaves us with an unencumbered general fund balance of $5.7 million. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for the manager? If not, we will move on to our speakers this evening. And first, when I call speakers, you'll come up to the podium and you have 3 minutes to speak. Then council members may ask questions, and then you can return to your seat. And for the speakers and others, you don't, if you want to leave after you speak, it is not rude for you to leave after you speak. Feel free to do that. It's not something we will take personally or anything like that. Okay, first, Renee Heviat.
Thank you.
No.
Oh, there's another Renee.
Hi, I'm Renee too.
Hi, I don't know that many. I didn't see her behind. I'm sorry.
You'll be number 3.
That's fine. Is there another Renee too?
It is a rare name, though. Hi, good evening, Amberley Village Council. It's good to be here, and thank you for having me, and good evening to the residents. My name is Renee Avia, and I'm running for the Cincinnati Public School Board. And so first of all, I want to paint a picture for you. So if you take a minute to imagine this. It's a cold winter day, and the custodian comes out to clean off the steps, and there's a child, and he says to the child, hold on a minute, I'm going to clean off the steps, and then I'll get to you. And the child in the wheelchair says, well, why don't you clean off the ramp, and we all can go up together. So that is my thinking about how we should be in Cincinnati Public Schools. So I grew up in Canton, Ohio. I was the daughter of 2 immigrant parents. My father was from Spain and my mother Czechoslovakia. So I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, so I am bilingual. My parents graduated college, they graduated high school, and my grandparents only made it through 6th grade. So I am the first to graduate college in my family. I know and understand from that the importance of education, building community, and also community engagement. So I came to Cincinnati in 1980, studied at UC and Xavier, and then began working as a Spanish teacher and an American history teacher at the Academy of World Languages. Then I went to Heinold, Foreign Language Academy. Wasn't very pleased with how things went with Cincinnati Public Schools, so I interviewed at Sycamore High School and got a job there teaching Spanish. Became a nationally board certified teacher, and then I became an assistant principal, and I retired 2 years ago. So now I am ready to serve again in Cincinnati Public Schools and hopefully earn a seat on the Board of Education. I'm running because I believe that I have a really unique set of skills and experiences being in urban and suburban education, being in the classroom for 24 years, and an administrator for 7. I believe that I bring some comprehensive thinking around the challenges that Cincinnati Public Schools has. Closing the achievement gap, raising rigor, meeting the equity issues, among many others. I stand for, and I always have in my career of 31 years, community engagement. So I know you hear a lot of people talking about community engagement, but I've actually done it. And so what that means to me is coming to you as a council in all 52 neighborhoods and getting your feedback and input from the community. Maybe it's different kinds of things too. Maybe it's picnics that you guys hold. Also, I want to communicate with the teachers because they also have some good ideas because they really are on the front lines. I know because I've been there for 24 years. So community engagement is very important because if we have input from all 52 neighborhoods, we can really take a look at being proactive in our schools instead of being reactive. Second, I really stand for taking a look at what are the institutional barriers that Cincinnati Public Schools has in place without even knowing it. Sometimes that happens with a big bureaucratic organization like Cincinnati Public Schools. There are institutional barriers, and I would like to help remove some of those. And finally, accountability to your tax dollars is very important, and holding the superintendent and the treasurer accountable for their work plans. So I would definitely be in favor of opening up the books to accountants to take a look at how CPS is spending their money. I know they just did that recently for, to pass preschool promise, which is important, and I'm glad they did, but I think it's something that we need to do regularly. So with that said, I am the only candidate that has 24 years experience in the classroom and 7 as an administrator, so hopefully I will earn a vote from Amberley Village. That's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? If not, good luck with
Thank
your
you.
campaign, and thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next, another election issue. Sharon Fusco's here this evening. Welcome. If you can just state your name and address and the subject matter you want to talk about, then go with it.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Sharon Fusco. I am Vice President for the Council on Aging, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about one of our many programs, the Hamilton County Elderly Services Program. This is a program that is funded by a levy, and that levy is up for renewal this year. I've been with Council on Aging for just about 10 years, and I'm with this program because I believe very, very strongly in its mission. COA provides services through the Elderly Services Program that help older adults remain independent and in their own homes, which is where they really want to age. We provide things like meals, transportation, bathing, dressing, light housekeeping, and other services similar to that. What strikes me about Council on Aging is I have been around the country speaking for a number of events and learning about other area agencies on aging like ours. And what I have learned in my years is that Hamilton County is very unique. The fact that the voters have said it is so important to care for mom and dad that we will take a portion of our property taxes to fund these services is unique in the country. The surrounding counties also have similar levies, but I can tell you outside of Ohio, this is unheard of. And I will say it is something that I think is very important that we protect. This year, we are going for an increase. It is the first increase we've had since 2008. And we are doing that because we are falling behind in our ability to serve seniors. We are serving 27% fewer seniors now than we were in 2008, and this is a function of the drop in property values combined with an exponential growth in this population. I would also say to you that without these services, without the elderly services program, two things would happen to these individuals. First, they'd likely end up in a nursing home. 80% of the individuals served on this program are eligible for nursing home level of care. They aren't in a nursing home because they aren't in a nursing home because of our services. The second thing that would happen is that if they ended up in a nursing home, they'd likely end up on Medicaid. That's just a fact. Nursing home services cost roughly $4,000 to $5,000 a month, and this program costs taxpayers about $357 a month. So it's a bargain for your dollar. I always like to tell people a little bit about the clients that we serve, and the best story I can tell you happened this past year, and it was early in the year when we went out to meet Harriet. And Harriet is in her 80s. She lives on a very, very modest income. Her income qualifies her that she doesn't have to pay a copay for this program because her income is so low. And Harriet receives 2 baths a week, Meals on Wheels, and medical transportation. When we were seeing Harriet, we were in the process, we had a waiting list for our services. That list has since gone away, but at that time we had a waiting list. And Harriet was pretty distraught to learn that there were seniors that were going without these services. She was so distraught, she turned to me and said, "You know, Sharon, if it means that another senior can receive services, I am more than happy to give up one of my baths a week for that," which really struck me. That's the type of client that you're serving with your tax dollar. There's so much more I could say. I will say in Amberley Village that we do have 37 clients on the program, and there's about 5,700 in the program annually. Happy to answer, though, any questions, because I could talk for days on this. So,
Any questions? Great.
This question, so who qualifies if they wish to be enrolled?
who qualifies if they should be enrolled?
Is it strictly age dependent? Or?
They do have to be age 60 and older to be on the program, and they have to meet the deficits for activities of daily living. They also cannot be receiving services through any other program, so we don't duplicate Medicaid services or any other program.
You say there's going to be an increase in tax levy. What's the increase?
The increase is, you might have heard, it's a 37% increase, but please keep in mind that that's roughly $10.85 a year. So I had Chipotle for lunch today, and my bill was like $11. So it is a very, very small increase. It sounds large because it's a very small levy. And that will take us, if you were to calculate inflation, it's slightly less than the rate of inflation over the course of the 10 years since our last increase. Other questions?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for visiting us, and good luck with the lesson.
Thank you so much, and I'll probably take you up on your offer because I have one more of these to do tonight. So thank you.
Okay, next, Renee, you're
Right. You're allowed to leave. I taught too. The kids ran out of the school. Okay, I'm Renee Lemberg, and I'm happy to be here. I am a product of Cincinnati Public Schools from grade school, and I taught in Cincinnati Public Schools after my graduation from college. I've lived in Amberley Village almost all of my married life. I've been here 44 and a half years, and I want to preface what I have to say with saying, I love where I live, I love the village, I like the people, I like the beauty of the neighborhood, I like the police chief. I put out a sign, but in reality, I always said the only way they'd take me out would be feet first. But we do have a large home, and actually I had to talk to an agent, was on the cusp of putting it for sale. And let me just tell you some of the other side of where I'm coming from. On a beautiful day in May, I just took a ride from Walgreens down Galbraith Road and did a little memory thing for my friends lived in bygone days on Lynnhaven, Sorrento, Crestdale. I should say I live on Fair Oaks Drive, so I guess I'm the old side. And then I went all the way around through, of course, the newer homes in the French Park area and Burning Tree, etc. And then I went the other way, where I barely ever go, and that was down Section Road to Reading Road, down Elbrook and Bluegrass, East and West Farm Acres, and I have to say, I was in a little dismay. I was dismayed because the houses were not like they used to be, but more important, I saw lawns where the grass was this high with clover. I saw cars parked on opposite ends of where they're supposed to be parked outside. I think you still should be in one direction or another. And paint peeling off, and garbage cans out, and to be honest, I was disappointed, which leads me back to why I came specifically. I know here or there, I believe there were some people that did register complaints about some of those issues. Other than caring about the whole village, as well as the value of our homes, I live on the dead end side of my street. So people, when they walk around the block at night, like we all do safely in Amberley, or drive, no one drives down to our 6 houses or walks around there because it's off the beaten path. And I had a neighbor, I happened to know the parents, I didn't know I did, that had a sewer line put in. And I asked, it was close to a year, and I called up someone in the village, I think they said a police officer out, and he came over and he said, that's what it takes, is a year. And that's just one area that I've seen 3 of that I think, because I don't never say anything negative without a suggestion. Maybe there would be someone in the village that would be more knowledgeable than just what the homeowner says, this is what my landscaper said, because I've already talked to 4 different landscapers, and I'd be happy to tell you whom they were. They're the most well-known in this area. And not one of them told me that it should take any more than 9 months, usually 6 to 9 months. So I have now been waiting 18 months, and I'm still looking at a dirt yard. Now, originally it was a mound with weeds, looked like a ranch, but they smoothed it out and told me they did that so I could sell my home. Well, I didn't want anybody to do something to sell my home. I thought the reason to do it was to keep the integrity of the village the way it used to be. And there may be others that want to speak, but I just wanted to say, I believe, and it'll only be a guess, when you sent this postcard out not long ago about hints for keeping your lawn in your home, are these sent out every year at the same time, or was that sent this year because there were complaints of any kind?
Renee, I can address that. The village has certainly stepped up its property maintenance view of the village. One of the items that was suggested by residents was to send out a postcard to make residents aware of what the standards were. So that was partly what prompted that postcard being sent in September to all the village.
Might have been my suggestion, I don't know.
Could have been.
But I read it, and I thought it was a good idea. But these are the points that I think were taken for granted. If any of you could answer them, I will go through them. I know you all know what they mean. Maybe you can help me. Because it says that grass or noxious weeds should not exceed 10 inches. Now, isn't 10 inches pretty high for a front lawn? And already gets, to me, 10 inches seems high. That's what I have to say about point 1. The other thing that I don't, there is, you all have seen or heard about the chipped and the flaking paint, and I guess it's up to how we, what's the word I'm looking for? With the follow-up through to make sure that these things are kept up to standard. And another one that really happens at the house by me, and I don't want to mention any names, the garbage cans on Friday are dragged from the curb maybe 4 or 5 feet into the driveway, where they remain till the next week when it's time to pull them in, put the bags in, and take it out again. Now, I know they were alerted because a family member told me, and then they were back out again. And it was told to me that this says, and they were right, that it only has to be put out no more than 24 hours in advance and removed within 24 hours from the curb. And I guess that's the key word, the curb. Well, they're in compliance. They're moved from the curb. So I just want to be, we didn't sell the house. We didn't officially put it on the market. As I said earlier, I would love to stay here and see if there's any suggestions in how we can have people have maybe more pride. And I'll close with this. I told my husband I was writing a letter to the editor back in June. He said, well, I'm not going to do it. You do it. And I did. And lo and behold, that Sunday, there's the letter. You know, if you're going to buy a home in a neighborhood, make sure that you care about the home, that you care about the upkeep like your neighbors do, so that your home is pleasant for others to look at and nobody loses their property value. He said, I can't believe you got it in. I said, it wasn't mine. It was a lady from Coleraine. And I don't care whether your house is worth $50,000, $500,000. I think most of us feel the same. We move in a neighborhood and we have a responsibility. We want to get pleasure for what we do. And thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Thanks, Renee. I think we all agree.
Scott, were you going to bring this up in your report?
It wasn't, but I can give you a summary of some of the property maintenance activity.
Well, I mean, we've all seen I talked to Scott earlier today about this. We've seen in Scott's report that this year we have had a lot of property maintenance. And the last time council kind of reviewed this property maintenance issue, I think was back in 2012 when the law committee reviewed it and reviewed the 10-inch height and some other things. I do think it's time to refer this back to the law committee to determine whether there's things. I know that the staff believes there's some things that we could update that would make it easier to maintain and give people notice when they're not in compliance and so forth. So as long as council is agreeable to it, I would like to refer this item to the law committee for review and report back to determine whether we need to revise any items in our ordinance.
A question for the manager. I just want to, I totally agree with that. I think that's a great idea. Just to clarify, though, maybe this is committee work, but one of the questions is, like, are there issues that you think result from residents who are like really disabled or elderly or is this primarily an issue that is separate from that? Because I think that's a bucket we want to consider as part of, this process as well.
My observation would be that it's properties that are just not being maintained, and I don't know what the genesis of that would be, but the standards are not being kept as they have been in the past. But what's driving that, I can't identify that. But certainly, this has been a very active year for property maintenance letters. We've sent out, I think, about 84 this year, which is probably double what we normally do. 8 of those have been just on Fair Oaks itself. And we typically don't think of Fair Oaks as a street that would get a property maintenance letter. But, one thing that has occurred as a result of having the mailer that went out that Ms. Lindbergh referenced, that has prompted residents to take attention. We've had calls coming into the office questioning about some of the details of that. We also had something in the e-news I believe in June or July that encouraged residents to report properties that they felt were not being properly maintained. That's actually generated calls as well. So, but having said all that, we can do we can beef up our property maintenance code, and there certainly are some areas that we can suggest changes to be made. But the one thing that we can't do is instill pride in home ownership. That one still baffles me about why somebody would not take care of a property in the village.
Yeah, I just meant to ask that question really to connect the dots back to the earlier conversation. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I think we're all in agreement. Just encourage us to think about if we determine that we have a population that's aging in place and has maybe there's creative ways that we can think about supporting our aging population as well. That's separate from this issue, but. If we go extremely punitive to people who need help, perhaps we should just to consider as kind of a side note to this as well. But not, that's, I think, separate from the issue you're talking about. I just wanted to mention
Can I
that.
ask a question here? Outside the AJC meeting? Okay. The houses that I personally, I'm sorry.
Why don't you go up to the mic?
Oh, I was just gonna, I thought I got one. Yeah, I'm sorry. You brought up age, and certainly I can't speak to that. But the house that I particularly have heard other people, there were two others who wanted to come tonight. One was, I know it was Columbus Day, someone else was taking their grandchildren out. You know, no one knows everyone. But the house that I specifically know about myself are not elderly. But you brought up a good point. If there are homes where the elderly can take care of it, there's other communities where they have drives and people help out on a weekend or so, if that would be the case.
I think that's just for us to consider as part of all of this.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts and just echoing what I think others have said on this dais. I think we're all in agreement. I have a question about, and this is not directed to you, Renee. This is directed to the village manager. This has to do with garbage cans. I know you brought up garbage cans. And so the question I have is, isn't the ordinance related to garbage cans? It's not a question of removing from the curb, but bringing the cans back to your home structure, right? So isn't that part of the ordinance?
Yep, part of the way the code reads now, as Ms. Lundberg stated, you can put your trash out 24 hours in advance, and your cans need to be returned from the curb within 24 hours. And in hers, what she's referencing is that the property owner brings the cans about halfway up the driveway and leaves them there. And that's one of the areas we'd like to tweak in the property maintenance code, is stipulating that they need to be taken back to the house or secured or, out of sight.
So there's an assumption we made, but maybe that's the which way. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I just have a question in regard to the garbage can issue. I've noticed that on garbage night, when people put their...
You can go up to the mic.
I noticed that on garbage collection night, when people put their cans out, a few people put them in the street instead of like on their grass. And it could be an issue of not being level or the cans falling over if they're not on the ground. I can understand that, but perhaps it would be good to make a suggestion of putting reflectors, if they have to put them in the street, put reflectors on the cans or something, because it's kind of a safety hazard if the street is dark and you're driving down, suddenly there's a garbage can in your lane. And I'm not sure what might be suggested, but I do think that's a safety issue when people put them in the street.
Thank you. I mean, we do need to move on. We will refer this to the law committee to be worked within the law committee, but I think we really do need to move on.
If it was a safety issue,
The safety issue, I mean, this is the type of thing that
I'd be happy to come.
the Environmental Stewardship Committee has tried to put out in e-news and things like this, things for people to deal with these type of issues. We try to communicate. We'll probably write an article in the next print newsletter about this. I mean, we are trying to do the things to address this, and we'll continue.
Scott, do you think that we can get a law committee meeting at some time, maybe before the end of the year, to review these issues? I know that we did do it not too many years ago, but I even remember at that time, there was long discussion even about grass height, and 10 inches, and how long is reasonable, but it sounds like there are some other tweaks.
The staff has been keeping a list of some of the issues that they feel are germane to the enforcement of the property maintenance code. So we'll be able to quickly get those assimilated and have a law committee meeting, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the committee reports, and the other speakers relate to yourself. Again, I think I said this before you came in, you're welcome to leave if your subject is already, will not take it personally.
We can eat dinner.
Huh?
We can have dinner, right?
You can have dinner.
Thank you.
Okay, first committee report is the Public Buildings and Parks Committee. Yeah, we're gonna cover your subject. She's gonna introduce it, and then we'll have you come up.
Okay. Public Buildings and Parks. The committee met on September 26th and also today, right before this council meeting, to discuss renovations to the upper ball field. It had been brought to the village's attention that the ball fields need more upkeep and care than they have received. Mr. Jim Robinson, a village resident who coordinates the scheduling for Nativity Baseball, had contacted the village manager to ask if something could be done because the upper field had actually been taken out of the scheduling rotation due to its condition. So we had a series of conversations, there were a series of conversations with Jim Robinson, the village manager, and also members of the Greff family that were very informative, and I think at this point it would be appropriate for Linda Greff to come up and talk about her family's history with ball.
Hello, Dr. Linda Greff, and I am here to want to thank you for giving me the opportunity of speaking for a few minutes, and also on behalf of my sister, Ronna Schneider, who is not available tonight as well. But I just wanted to give you just a very brief history. Some of you, but maybe not all of you, are aware of, for many years, I grew up in Amberley, and my heart is still in Amberley, even though I live over in Pleasant Ridge now, and of course Ronna still lives here. And years ago, my parents sponsored Little League teams who were playing here in Amberley, and it was a lot of fun, but my dad and my mom were so concerned, though, about their safety, because at that time the kids would play baseball and then they'd sit on the bench. There was no fencing, and that was very concerning to them. When my father passed away in 1991, one of the projects that my mother did was she wanted to start putting fencing there so that the kids would be safe for playing baseball. And she did that, but in my mother's good style, she went a little bit overboard, and she decided to really upgrade everything. And so she put in all the bleachers, and then decided to make the upper field have a grass infield, put in an underground irrigation system. So she really had a good time with that. Unfortunately, she passed away in 1993 before the project was completed. So my sister and I made our field of dreams, and we completed it in memory of my parents. And we gave, really it was my parents and my mother that gave the gift to Amberley with the idea, with the intent that one, the kids would be able to play safely. That was their first intent. And the second was that these little kids, because we're talking about the little kids, when they would come to play, they would feel very important. They wanted to make a field where they would feel very special. And that's in fact what happened. And so now tonight you'll be voting on a way of reconditioning the fields, because over the years, the maintenance has kind of fallen off and the conditions of the fields have really fallen off. And thanks to Jim Robinson, who really spearheaded this revisiting of the ball fields, it was realized that now coaches really don't want to schedule having their kids playing there because it was not safe. It was very lumpy, bad hops to catching the balls. And so we want to bring back the jewel, I think, of Amberley, of attracting little kids to come and play baseball. So the committee was very gracious in entertaining different ways of approaching of how best to renovate the ball fields. And I think they've got some good ideas. But again, I would hope that Amberley would realize that having the children enjoy playing baseball would be very important, and that you'd want to continue to make this a joy to look at. I tell you, I go past the fields so often when I drive past, and I get such a thrill when I see families out there playing and kids having a good time, and I just want that to continue in memory of my parents and just the joy of baseball for everybody. So thank you for the opportunity of addressing you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everything your family has done through the years. Yes.
All right, so we're talking about, there are two baseball fields down there. The lower one near the intersection with section is a dirt infield. The upper one is the one that has the turf infield, and we learned from Jim Robinson that during the season, they are used 4, 5, 6 nights a week. So they are very valued as athletic facilities in this area. At our committee meeting, staff provided us with estimates for different projects that could be undertaken on the fields, including new fences, repairing the irrigation system, replacing the turf infield on the upper field. And we discussed issues of ongoing maintenance and how to make that feasible for the village. And throughout, our priority was providing ball fields to the kids in our community. The committee recommended that the upper field be brought up to playable condition without the irrigation and with the dirt infield instead, the turf being atypical compared to other fields and difficult to maintain. The fences are rusty but still sturdy, so that project was excluded. So the total cost that we recommended for the work that we recommend is $9,655.50 to be done by Team All Sports, which includes the removal of grass infield, laser grading the slope, applying 60 tons of infield mix, installing a pitcher's mound, which is not usual for fields of this age, but that's kind of part of an amenity, if you will, to be special, to make it something a little bit extra in the spirit of the original gift. The cost also includes sodding the areas down the first and third foul areas to the fence, around home plate circle, and around the arc behind the first, second, and third bases. I was going to say something else. Oh, and we all agreed as part of this process that we were all grateful that Jim had brought it to our attention, and we want to make a commitment to including the ball field maintenance in our annual process of the committee. The pitcher's mound would need annual attention, so that we saw this as sort of a beginning of something that we want to continue. The work has to be done in the next month in order for the ground to settle by spring, hence our desire to bring it to tonight's meeting. Okay, so with all that background, I'd like to move that council adopt resolution number 2017-31, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to repair the ball field by Team All Sports at a price not to exceed $9,655.50. So,
Okay, and before we get into the discussion, resident Bill Doring, who does have some history since he umpired for many, many years, just wants to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of council. And first of all, I want to acknowledge the wonderful gift that her family gave to establish these fields. As many of you know, I've been an umpire for close to 40 years. I have taught the umpiring at Indian Hill, at Madeira, and Montgomery. I have supervised the umpires in Indian Hill. Indian Hill has a grass infield, but it's for B level and above. In our situation here, we're talking about T-ball and D-ball and so forth. I know of no other field that has grass on it, and I'm including the spot between the foul lines and the fences. When you put that grass between the foul line and the fences, that's a maintenance nightmare, and we don't have the staffing to maintain it. That's one of the reasons we have the issue now. I'm recommending that the entire fenced area be dirt. When kids come to play ball, the primary focus, what they have and the coaches have and what the umpires have, is the field level. Is the grass being cut out in the outfield? Is the outfield level with the infield? I think the biggest problem that field in question has is the left field dips down. That's much more of a bigger problem than having grass on the field there. At this level of ball playing, it's instructional. These people are learning how to play ball. Why would you want to put a pitcher's mound in when every other field they go to is not going to have one? So you're going to teach them from one field to pitch with a mound. When they go play somebody else, there's no mound. That's, to me, is a negative thing for the instructional part of this. Trying to catch foul balls on a grass infield or trying to catch a foul ball with the grass is more difficult. That's the reason you don't see grass in any part of the fields in most of these fields throughout the city and the county. As I said, Indian Hill, the only grass they have is that, but they've got the maintenance staff to maintain it. And I think if we had someone from the maintenance department here, they would agree that that strip of grass that you want to replace between the fence and the foul line is not going to get properly maintained. You're going to have a mess very quickly. I would much rather see money spent on leveling that outfield portion than, I mean, yeah, it looks nice and so forth, but it's not functional for the kids. And I think our focus should be on the kids, as well as, spending this kind of money on this ball field, to me, is just ridiculous. And I think I want you to answer this question to yourself. If you own these ball fields, would you put that kind of money into grass when it's not totally unnecessary? Thank you.
Now, it has been moved and seconded that the council approves resolution 2017-31, which would authorize the village manager to enter into a contract to repair the ball field as Councilwoman Conway explained. Are there any questions or further discussion?
So, I know Mr. Dorn just asked this question about the left field. I'm sorry. Question is to, yes, it is on. It's to Ms. Conway or Mr. Larmer. In terms of the, what Mr. Dorn just brought up, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Mr. Dorn just brought up in terms of in terms of the status of the left field not being level, would this cost include that correction?
The proposal from Team All Sports includes putting a slope on the field. So starting at the pitcher's mound, it would be a 1% slope going to home base and also to the outfield. Part of the problem that Mr. Doring referenced is the problem of the heaving of soil, dirt, that is primarily on third base, but also second and first. So what's going to happen is when they take the grass infield out, they're going to scrape it, and then that soil, that dirt will be brought back into the infield, with the highest point being the pitcher's mound, and a 1% slope going out from there. So the hump, the rimming will disappear in this process.
Thank you.
And Scott, with respect to the issue of the grass between the fence and the infield, am I correct in assuming your maintenance staff that, I mean, we have the contractor mow down there.
Right.
Tony and others are comfortable that, this can be maintained, that grass and so forth?
Yes, the grass along first base and the grass along third base will require some additional maintenance, but it is a special field. We acknowledge that, and we're ready to take care of that. As we have consulted with Team All Sports, they've recommended that to be part of this particular field.
I had one other comment. I just wanted to bring up at our committee meeting, this is addressing the pitcher's mound. Mr. Robinson was asked about that pitcher's mound, about how it compares to other fields. And certainly this would be the only field in the league that would have that. He didn't bring up any issues regarding safety, as opposed to something that this could be something special for the kids. The pitcher's mound is only going to be about 4 inches. Be about 4 inches up. So this is not like a major league baseball type of height. This is a much reduced height. So that's just what I wanted to share.
He did indicate, he seemed very enthused at the idea that it would be something the kids would find special, and the committee wanted to provide something special in acknowledgement to the refs.
Any other questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2017-31. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passed unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Now move on to the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item I'd like to present is to introduce a resolution to accept the rates of the Budget Commission. Back in June, Council adopted Resolution 2017-18, adopting the 2018 tax budget, which was certified to the county auditor. In addition, Amberley Village has one voted levy that began in March of 2012, which was the police levy, which was approved for 10 mills. And that levy ends with the 2016 taxes collected in 2017. And in May of 2017, the voters passed a reduced rate renewal for the police levy, the amount of 8 mills. That collection will begin in 2018. Accordingly, I move that Resolution 2017-32, the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies, certifying them to the county auditor.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-32, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-32. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Second item on my agenda is to introduce resolution number 2017-33, authorizing the village manager to join the coalition of municipalities retaining special counsel for the purpose of initiating litigation to challenge the constitutionality of amendments to Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code relating to municipal income tax. Accordingly, I introduce this resolution. I move it to be adopted as such.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-33, which would authorize the village manager to join a coalition that plans to file suit related to to challenge constitutionality of certain amendments to the Ohio Revised Code. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to elaborate a little bit more about this. First item is that the expenditure is not to exceed $1,000 for the legal fees to be incurred in this endeavor. The problem has cropped up where the Ohio legislature, it is part of the municipal tax reform in House Bill number 49, authorized the centralized collection by the state of Ohio of municipal net profits. By doing so, the municipalities are not allowed to challenge the allocation, which may or may not occur, and the allocation may not be correct. So any potential disputes bars municipalities from acting in court.
And also, potentially, there would be a fee in addition where they would take an administrative fee and take our taxes and, yeah,
Well,
is
the
that?
state's always gonna take
Yeah,
the
okay,
fees.
okay. I mean, it's definitely, for $1,000, it's not a very heavy lift, it sounds like, for something that is, this could be really problematic for us. And we're joining good company in this suit, as like many, many, many other municipalities in this suit.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-33. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the Land Development Committee, and as chair of the Land Development Committee, I will be submitting the report. The committee has met a number of times in 2017 to specifically talk about tax increment financing, to get ourselves educated more so, because we have a couple properties, namely the north site and hopefully in the near future, the former Gibson site, where tax increment financing could be a big benefit to the village. The committee most recently reviewed specifically the possibility for tax increment financing related to the north site and specifically the Mercy Medical Office building that is currently under development. The conclusion of the committee was that it was clearly beneficial to set up a TIF related to the north site. And so tonight I am would like to have the first reading of an ordinance that would establish a TIF for the north site. Our intent would be that in November, that we would probably waive the third reading, and we would be doing the second reading related to that TIF. The TIF, as part of this process, you have to enter into negotiations with the school district, which the village manager has done, and we are basically in place where we have an agreement that would reimburse the school district at a rate of 34.67% related to that. That's something you have to negotiate in order to be able to set up the TIF. You have to negotiate with whatever school district that applies to come up with your reimbursement rate. That rate would apply for the 30 years that the TIF would be in place. If we get into this, for 8-10 years, and we find that as the money has come in, that we do not have projects to spend the money, we can at that point basically cancel the TIF, and at that point, everything would just go back to normal. The rate or the taxes, would go to Hamilton County things, or would go to the city, or would go directly to the village as opposed to the TIF. But we do believe that there are a number of projects that potentially could come up over the next few years. Some projects have kind of been identified. Definitely the service road is in need of repair. There, in all likelihood, will be some things that we have to do out on Ridge and things like that. So if the TIF did stay in place for all 30 years, we would be able to get about $2.7 million into this TIF, which is substantially more than the tax revenues that the village would see if we did not have the TIF. So I think it is something that we clearly want to do. So as I say, I'm introducing the first reading of an ordinance declaring that we have a public purpose and that certain public improvements are necessary for the further development of the parcels within the village. And again, as part of this process, we will declare a TIF for most of all of the north site, although the maintenance site will be excluded. And the one thing we're trying to look at is as to whether the cell tower would also be excluded. But if there's another development, if another medical office building goes in next door, that would be within the TIF district. And those would also be eligible to come in. So at this point, having made the first reading, I'm happy to take any questions. If not, as I said, we will be having at least the second reading for this at our November.
So a question about, you mentioned the district that is, this covers a certain area within the village. And what is that area?
It's basically the north site. This is the,
Okay, that's what I assumed, okay.
this TIF is for the north site, but as far as what projects could be used, it can expand outside of the TIF, but it has to be somehow related to, the developments in the TIF. So, for instance, out on the Ridge, right there, clearly, how far you could go down Ridge would be something we would be discussing with legal counsel, et cetera.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, that concludes my report of the Land Development. We'll now move on to the Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewers Committee.
Thank you. Before you is Resolution 2017-34, authorizing the village manager to enter into contract to install signalization at Ridge and Ronald Reagan Highway. As noted, the Streets Committee met on September 26th, and as noted in the last council meeting, the Streets Committee has been meeting and to discuss some of the traffic problems at the Ridge and Ronald Reagan Highway intersection. And this goes back to last December, almost a year ago. ODOT ran a traffic study focusing on that intersection to determine if improvements were warranted that would improve the traffic flow and reduce congestion. Their report confirmed our previous study with TEC Engineering on the utility of installing a left turn signal onto Ronald Reagan West from Ridge Road North, and ODOT approved its installation. While there's currently a turning lane at this intersection, there's no separate left turn signal. And so we know at high traffic times, motorists turn at their risk. Maybe you can get one car turning that is making a left turn. Rarely you get more than one. So there's certainly a traffic risk there. Installation of the turning light should improve traffic flow and also make the intersection safer. Now, since the city of Reading owns the north side of this intersection where this turn signal would be installed, the village is the only party interested really in this installation. The village will incur the financial responsibility to purchase and install the turning light. We received a quote in the amount of $12,209, some change, that was obtained from Capital Electric. And so this resolution authorizes the village manager to enter into a contract to install this left turning light at the Ridge Road and Ronald Reagan Highway intersection. And so I bring this to council. For a
So
motion.
moved. Okay, so it has been moved and seconded, and that we adopt resolution 2017-34, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract for the installation itself. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, it is not, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2017-34. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be noted that the resolution passes unanimously. Anything else? Now move on to the police and fire department.
Okay, thank you. We have two items tonight. First of all, I'd like to present for a second reading ordinance number 2017-09, authorizing the hiring of auxiliary peace officers and establishing the auxiliary police unit, which you may recall from my description last month would be part-time officers to work details and special events. They would not work the road. They would have a very limited position, but to augment our staff and to provide a consistent Amberley presence in public arenas at events and things. So that's just the second. The second item,
Before we move on, are there any questions or comments related to the second reading?
all right. The second item concerns a position with the Heroin Task Force. The committee met on October 2nd to hear about a request to the village from Hamilton County in relation to the Heroin Coalition Task Force, which was formed in 2015 to provide a multi-jurisdictional approach to dealing with the widespread epidemic. The position of Task Force Investigative Commander is held by Lieutenant Tom Fallon, and the Hamilton County Administrator had contacted Chief Wallace to ask if the position could be housed by the village. I think the simplest way to describe this is it's like the boat, where we would be providing an infrastructure and a home, so to speak, for something that would be of service to a larger jurisdiction and be funded outside of the village. So in this case, lieutenant's salary and benefits would be covered by the task force. He would not be paid overtime or accumulate comp time. He will accumulate sick time, but it will not be paid out later. He will provide his own gear. The task force has its own office space, but the chief would provide a workspace for him in the lower level of our building, and he would not work on the road at all for Amberley. Our officers would collaborate with him in the same way they currently do on investigations. It really reflects well on our department under the leadership of Chief Wallace that this request would be made. The committee agreed with the chief's recommendation that housing the task force position would be beneficial to the village with little or no downside. So, let me go ahead with everything. Okay, so this prompt action is required. So first of all, I'd like to move that we waive the 3 readings on this ordinance.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings on this particular ordinance.
I would imagine it's so that it can be, he can be
I mean,
employed
the-
here
the-
sooner than
the
later.
prompt action is required. Lieutenant Fallon basically left the Norwood Police Service at the end of September. And we basically need to bridge him immediately into Amberley. So that is the reason for the need for the prompt action. So it's been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings related to this ordinance. Please call the roll. Oh, wait, there is one question. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe the chief can address this. So this person would be housed, I mean, his office would be based here?
Yeah, he actually has an office in Hamilton County, but also he'll have a workspace that work out of here.
And so, so I'm going to assume we do have adequate space for that without interfering whatever tasks are needed by...
Right.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
I have Ed as the second on that, is that correct?
Me. That was
No,
me.
it's Natalie.
Natalie. Oh,
I can see where you would make that mistake.
Rich Barda? Peg Conway?
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach?
Yes.
Alita Kamine? Tom Muething?
Yes.
Ray Warren?
Yes.
Natalie Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, and now I would like to move that we adopt ordinance number 2017-11, creating the position of Heroin Task Force Commander. So
Second.
moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2017-11. Any questions? If not, please call the roll.
Rich Barda? Peg Conway?
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach?
Yes.
Alita Kamine? Tom Muething?
Yes.
Ray Warren?
Yes.
Natalie Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, then finally, I would like to move that we adopt this ordinance as emergency measure, the immediate passage of which is necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare, and so that it can go into immediate effect. The reason for such emergency is that there is an immediate need to fill the position of commander for the task force, so the task force can continue its work uninterrupted, and any delay may cost the task force time and money, and also interfere with its mission of saving lives and prosecuting source dealers. So moved.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2017-11 as an emergency measure. Are there any questions or comments? If not, please call the roll.
Rich Barda? Peg Conway?
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach?
Yes.
Alita Kamine? Tom Muething?
Yes.
Ray Warren?
Yes.
Natalie Wolf?
Yes.
That concludes my report.
Okay, we'll now move on to the health, education, and welfare.
Thank you. You have before you Resolution 2017-35, amending the deer management policy. The purpose of the deer management policy is to establish a program to maintain the deer population and ensure a healthy deer herd, and also it is pursuant to the health and welfare of Amberley Village. Each year since adopting the deer management policy in 2012, the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee meets to determine if changes to the policy are needed. Pursuant to our deer policy, the village currently conducts a deer count using infrared technology every 3 years. The police are able to cull up to 50 deer a year without coming to council for permission each time. And thirdly, the village monitors deer vehicle accidents and citizen complaints. As a result of our yearly review, the HEW committee has determined that there are an overabundance of deer living in our residents' backyards. In particular, they are living in a large tract of land behind Arbor Crest. Residents have reported counting at times more than 30 deer living on the property, which is more than has been determined that Amberley can handle in its 3.5 square miles. Our initial policy provided for sharpshooters to cull the herd with rifles. The Health, Education and Welfare Committee is now recommending a change in that policy, and we are recommending a pilot program for our sharpshooters to use crossbows on private property to cull the deer. The property is limited at this time to 2 adjacent properties on Arbor Crest, which together are nearly 6 acres. The homeowners have agreed and the adjacent neighbors will be notified. At this time, I'd like to move that council pass Resolution 2017-35, amending 2017-35, amending the deer management policy for Amberley Village.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-35, revising the deer management program. Are there any questions or comments?
Question I have, you said that the 2 parcels involved total 6 acres, but the parcels total, each were 6 acres.
Now, I believe that taken together, they're approximately 6. Is that right?
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-35. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Being noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Concludes my report.
Now move on to the management.
I had a few items I'd like to mention this evening. I had the opportunity to attend an OVI Task Force recognition program that was held this past month, and it was to recognize one of our officers, Officer Brandon Gehring, and he was recognized for having the highest number of OVI, which is operating a vehicle impaired, arrests for this year. So it was quite an accolade for him to receive, and I had the opportunity to attend the ceremony, but it's quite fitting for Officer Gehring to be given this award. He is a very highly productive officer, and he certainly takes his commitment to the village very seriously, and we thank him for being able to take impaired drivers off of the street and to keep us all safe. So congrats to Officer Gehring for his dedication to the village and to others. Second item I wanted to mention is in regards to the leaf collection. Residents in the village, the last week for brush collection was last week. So a call safe message went out 2 weeks ago reminding residents that we would be suspending brush collection, and residents' last opportunity to have their brush picked up would be the week of October 2nd through the 6th of October. Starting next Monday, October 16th, we will begin leaf collection. So if residents have brush that they would like to dispose of before we resume brush collection in January, they have a couple of options. One, the most prominent, is to place the brush in along with their trash, so they can do that in their trash. They can also bundle it into 4-foot lengths and cut it up so that it's bundled, and Rumpke will take it on waste collection day. There are other options. You can put it in a waste bag collection, and Rumpke will take it with their waste. But we have suspended it for this next 3-month period so that we can focus on leaf collection. On Saturday, October 28th, the village will begin a program that we began last year. It's called the Drug Take Back Day. This is an opportunity for our residents to bring prescription drugs to the village and dispose of them between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So this is an event that many organizations participate. So our police and fire department are participating. So residents can bring pills for disposal to the Amberley Village Municipal Building, bring it to our police and fire department. There are no liquids or needles that will be accepted, but residents are encouraged to empty out any of those types of prescription drugs out of their medicine chests at home. Don't dispose of them down your toilet or anything. Just bring them here, and we will dispose of them for you. Can you repeat the time? Yeah, it's going to be on Saturday, October 28th, and it'll be from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. here at the Amberley Village Municipal Building. One of the opportunities that council afforded the village last year was that you entered into a community development block grant program. And there are benefits of this. One of those benefits we will realize later this year as we embark on an asbestos abatement program for the clubhouse at Amberley Green. But an additional benefit is that we are eligible to apply for grants from CDBG, Community Development Block Grants. So one of those opportunities will be forthcoming this year for the next 3-year cycle. And so staff has decided that we should open up 2 public hearings so that we can hear from any residents before we seek any decisions from council about what type of grants we should pursue. So we've established 2 public hearings. One will be on October 30th at 3 p.m. here in the council chambers, and the second one will be held on November 13th at 5:30 p.m. And so this is an opportunity if any residents want to come and give input on CDBG suggestions. We will have opening comments about what CDBG is all about, what types of projects could be funded. There are limitations, so we're not in the best position to be receiving grants, but once again, I think on our track record, we've taken advantage of a lot of grant opportunities the last several years, so this is one additional opportunity that we would like to exercise. And the last item, I'd like to call attention to the new income tax drop box that has been installed. This was installed by staff last week, and it is located in the circle as you pull into the front of the municipal building. And this is another opportunity to improve our customer service. It's an opportunity for residents who are bringing their income taxes to us. They do no longer have to come into the building, but they can pull up to the drop box and they can drop their tax returns off. The box is certainly large enough to accommodate any kind of a return, but we encourage residents to take advantage of that. It is at the front entrance of the building, and therefore you don't have to come into the building unless you want to get a receipt or actually get some physical contact with our tax staff. We're still certainly available to interact with residents about their taxes, but we thought this would make it convenient for the residents to have this available to them 24 hours a day. So I just wanted to put a plug in for the income tax drop-off. And that concludes my report.
Okay, Councilwoman Conway?
Yeah, Scott, could you give like a short description of the types of things that could be applied for of a community development block grant?
On the community development block grant, because we do not have an area that is designated as what's called low to moderate income, so LMI is the acronym that's used for that. We cannot use those funds for street projects or sidewalks or anything like that. So where we're targeted is primarily on items that are handicap related for our public facilities. It might be something related to our amenities such as the ball fields or tennis courts or our playground. If there was means of having those more handicap accessible, that's an item that could potentially qualify. And then the second area that we qualify, and this is probably the area that is probably most relevant, is in regards to economic development. So we have 2 development sites in the village with the Redevelopment Authority property, formerly the Gibson property, and then also the north site where the Mercy Health building is built. If there was a project in that area that qualified from an economic development standpoint, it could potentially receive enough points that it would be funded. So those are the 2 areas that we are looking at. There may be some other areas, and that's one of the purposes of having the public hearing. Some residents may have some suggestions on their own, and so we'll take that kind of input and see if it nets any kind of benefit to the village. But those are probably the 2 primary areas.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the manager? Now we'll move on to the chief's report.
My report will be short. I put something on Nextdoor about the recent break-ins we've had. We had an attempted break-in on section, 2,300 blocks a section, and then we also actually had a break-in on Bluegrass. About a month prior to that, we did have a break-in on Dina, and the detective was able to get a palm print out of that house, and we actually made an arrest on that last week. I have high hopes that within the next couple days, we'll actually be able to make an arrest on our recent 2 burglaries. So again, we just stress to people, you have to be diligent. It doesn't matter if it's day or night. Lock your doors. You still should not leave things visible in your house. Over the weekend, Gulf Manor also had a burglary similar. They looked in the back window, took a rock, smashed the back window out. She was on the 2nd floor, went in, stole her purse and other items, and went right back out the door. So unfortunately, we're living in times where people are seeing stuff, but they're not calling it in. If you see something, call. We'd rather come and check it out to make sure, everything's good with the person. That's in my report.
Any questions for the chief? Now we'll move on to the mayor's report, and the tonight I wanted to bring up the nomination for the LSDMC, the Local School Decision-Making Committee. This is something we talked about in the last 2 meetings. We tried to get, some candidates. I mean, this is not, something that, we don't have a real good understanding necessarily of what the best type candidate is. But the school wants, the school has said they're definitely interested in having someone knowledgeable of the community, things like that. Doesn't have to be a parent or anything like that. So we had, between Alita and Peg and myself, we talked about this. And what we've decided, or I would like to propose this evening, is that I would like to nominate Councilwoman Conway to be the LSDMC rep. It will only be for probably a 9-month period. And the goal during this 9-month period would be that we get much better communication into council, to our community, about what's going on at the school. I think that's something that that we've fallen short as a council, communicating to our residents what's going on with the school, and having one of our council members serve that role. The other thing that this will allow us to do is get a much better idea of who the right person, what the right skills and involvement and the amount of time. And then we could put together almost another, like a job description, and put it out similar to what we did for council members and members of the planning commission, where we got a lot of candidates. Our goal would be next summer that we would put this out so that during the intervening period of the summer period where the LSDMC is not meeting, such that we would have another person identified to begin that at the next school year. So I hereby nominate and thank Councilwoman Conway for being willing to take on this additional role for this next 9-month period.
Second, third, fourth, fifth. I think that's great.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we nominate Councilwoman Conway to be the LSDMC rep. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? They noted that the motion passes unanimous. The other things I have are schedule related, and first I would like to ask Councilwoman Kamine to comment on the Women's Forum coming up on October 19th.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So mentioned at the last meeting that the Women's Forum is hosting and sponsoring, although certainly not limited to women, it's open to everybody, a candidate forum for the school board. You heard, obviously, we have a candidate here today. There are 13 candidates running for 4 seats on the CPS school board. The new location is the JCC, and it will be on October 19th, Thursday, October 19th, from 6:30 to 8:30, with the program starting at about 7 o'clock. And I think 11 of the 13 candidates are confirmed to be there. So it's going to be quite an event. And the goal is really, I was laughing when she was talking that, she kept talking about 52 neighborhoods, like we're not one of those 52. So that reminded that they serve our community as well. So I hope that lots of residents will come and ask lots of questions, and it'll be great.
I'd like to ask all our council colleagues if you could help spread the word with your contacts on Nextdoor or Facebook or email, your neighbors, relatives. I had someone ask me on Nextdoor, well, can't the village just put this on its Facebook page? I said, well, they keep kind of a boundary between things that are village and things that are, well, isn't this village? I'm like, well, yeah, but no. So anyway, if you all could spread the word, it would.
And it is true, I think, that it's open to non-village residents also.
Sure, absolutely.
Our target market is really Amberley Village. I mean, we want to.
And men too.
Okay, the other 3 items, agenda related, all relate to the Environmental Stewardship Committee. We do have, in the past few years, the Environmental Stewardship Committee has tried to have a fall program. This year, we are having a fall program. It is on October 22nd, which is a Sunday at 3 o'clock. We're doing a tree walk on the grounds here. We will be walking the grounds, looking at the trees that have been planted on Arbor Day over the past 10 to 15 years, look at some other trees. And Dave Stang, who is a village resident and owns Stang Tree Service, is going to be doing kind of the walkabout with us. We had a tree walk a number of years ago down at Amberley Green, and Dave did it then, and I think all the residents really enjoyed it. So I think it'll be a great program. So again, get the word out on that. It is on the website, it is on our social media, and I thank Nicole for continuing to broadcast. On October 19th, we will have, I think it will be the final Clean the Green of the year, but it will actually be occurring on the grounds up here this time. A few weeks ago, the Environmental Stewardship Committee walked the grounds here with Tony Chesney, talked about things that we can do to better maintain the grounds here. And there are a few things that are minor maintenance that are much better done by volunteers and fit well with the Clean the Green skill set, Roger. Clippers and little saw, those type of skills, and things that we can do. So we are going to be meeting up here at 5:30 on October 19th to be doing that. And then finally, the Environmental Stewardship Committee will be meeting on October 23rd, the day after the tree walk, at 7 o'clock down in the community. And that concludes the mayor's report. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry. With respect to the manager's evaluation, this is something that we have referred to the committee in the past, but I think having now gone through this for a number of years, what I would like to say is that our intent is just to use the same form, the same process that we did in the past, which would involve the manager filling out the self-evaluation, and then after the next meeting in November, we would be going over that as a council to target again completing this process for December. So as long as council members are happy that we follow just the same process, and we really don't need to have a separate committee meeting ahead of just starting the process. So is everyone okay with that? Okay, so we will start that process with the manager's self-evaluation over the next couple weeks. And
Wait, then when do we fill out ours? Are we just going to get it on email, or how's that going to work?
The process is that the manager fills out his self-evaluation. He will send that out to you. Nicole, if we could also send out the form to the individual council members, which is basically the numeric form to fill out. Then what we will do after the next council meeting, we will probably break into executive session to review the self-evaluation and to go over our form. And if it is handled the same as in the past, then one of the council members or myself will then take our comments, we will accumulate that into a single form, and we will review that with the manager probably after the December meeting. The only other item I would add is, last year we did have an upward feedback portion of that, but what we agreed when we began that process is we would be doing that every other year. So this will not be a year for any of the upward feedback.
I believe we should also receive last year's prospective work plan in the
Right.
package.
Right, as part of the manager's self-evaluation, he will be doing his goals for
From-
2018 and reporting back on his goals that we agreed with him for 2017.
Right.
Anything else? All right, any new business?
Thank you. I would like everyone to join the Interfaith Hospitality Network, Hebrew Union College, and Mount St. Joseph University at the Interfaith Action Breakfast on October 24th at 8 a.m., and it is at HUC. The focus of the breakfast, and there is a panel at the breakfast, will be on building unity between different faith groups in order to advance justice. And I think that most, if not all of us, can agree that that is an important mission. And then second thing I have as new business is to remind our residents that sign up for the Affordable Care Act begins November 1st and ends December 15th, and just go to healthcare.gov to do that. Thank you.
Is there a flyer available for the October 24th interfaith?
I can email. I'll email to everybody. And actually, Rabbi Wise asked me to make sure to spread it widely.
Hey, any other new business? If not, thank you very much, and consider the meeting adjourned.